Reynad say that if he thinks that if a warrior draws 2 armor smiths in the early game, that you see their win rate shoot up to just an enormous percentage, versus when you draw, say, 1 armor smith or just like an acolyte and an armor smith. 2 armor smiths just ends up giving them so much value throughout the course of the game when your opponent your opponent basically has to deal with these. And when they're playing something like Paladin, they don't really have much of a choice other than True Silver Champion, other than to give you multiple points of armor from it. So when you're seeing these high armor totals come in, and they're not really having to put in a lot of work to activate shield slams, and they don't have to fear too much about either racing or using their weapons extremely aggressively to clear minions, that's when Warrior is at its best, when it doesn't have to worry about its life total and play around weird reach combos. Paladin also doesn't have access to a lot of reach. So to see something like 2 armor smiths come in this early could really spell a lot of trouble for strifecrow.
Yeah, not only 2 armor smiths, but 2 acolyte of pains. You talked about how Nyria in some previous tournaments, he got some pretty abysmal draws, but I have to think that this is pretty much the dream draw from Nyria. Not only do you have the almighty Fiery War Axe, but you pretty much are curving out so well, getting everything, all the lower curving spells and lower curving minions that you need. In addition, you're getting all your draw mechanics in the very early stages of the game, which is so important in a warrior versus paladin matchup, where it's all about just longevity and how much value you can get out of cards.
Yeah, so he's actually not going to be playing 2 armor smiths behind each other. He's going to favor drawing cards right now, and with 2 acolytes of pain in his hand, I mean, really the only card that I think can make this draw any better right now is a whirlwind.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, as I was speaking about lower curving very low, he even draws the Cruel Taskmaster, and Nyria is going to be so happy right now, basically.
Yeah.
strifecrow with no plays right now.
Yeah, I mean, this is looking pretty grim.
Now, we saw Life Coach yesterday in a similar position in the Paladin versus Warrior matchup, and he actually decided to hero power in this situation, potentially even giving his opponent another draw. Do you think he'll go for the... do you think strifecrow would actually hero power this turn?
I think
does he even play the Aldor?
I think hero power makes a lot of sense here, but I think Aldor makes more sense because he just wants to contest this Acolyte of Pain directly and make sure it doesn't get out of control. Unfortunately for him, this is going to end up backfiring a little bit because Nyria does have a Cruel Taskmaster in his hand, so you're going to see Acolyte and Cruel Taskmaster come down this turn. He's going to pick up some armor, he's going to draw some cards, but there are more options available too. Like if he wanted to, he could end up taking out the shielded minibot and keeping his Acolyte around. But I think this is probably a better play. If strifecrow's playing a 3/3 minion and not taking any value from the battle cry, especially when it's powerful as Outlaw Peacekeeper, it probably means he needs a board presence going forward. So to help develop against that by just taking your value now while you can get it, it's probably going to be his best play.
Mm-hmm. I like the Sludge Belcher here instead of the Lothar because it just contests the board a lot more. Plus, it kind of saves your shielded minibot. And also, warriors tend to not be playing Lothab of their own. So if your opponent doesn't play Lothab, and you probably know your opponent won't be playing Lothab, then you don't need your own Lothab to counter your opponent's Lothab. But strifecrow, he goes for a more aggressive play. He goes for Lothab.
I think what he's trying to do is he's trying to keep armor under control right now because he wants to trade into this 2/2, but he doesn't want to lose board control. So when he plays this Lothab, like say he had played Sludge Belcher last turn, he would have given Nyria access to just armor up Shield Slam and clear out the 1/2, and then he's left with basically no board again. So I think he's trying to avoid a position like that. And right now, this is just great. He's able to shred basically all this armor off and get a Sludge Belcher back behind this, or he can even play the Sylvanas if he wants to. So there's 2 targets that Nyria has to deal with.
Yeah, Nyria had a pretty great opening hand, but right now he's drawing into not the best cards. He'd prefer something like minions or a Death Spite, but right now the board state is kind of swung back in strifecrow's favor, even though he's going to have a card disadvantage.
Yeah, not the best pan out. Brawl is also something that we've seen trimmed from a lot of warrior decks lately, and he's choosing to run it here. And I'm curious exactly why specifically he's choosing to run it over favoring the cut, like I've seen just so many people do lately.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, he's not going to show the armor either, which is I was actually just about to mention. That he doesn't really have a way to play around executes either, as long as the Acolyte's on the board, because the Acolyte's it's just such a great activator for execute. And so now when he gets into a position like this, it feels like it's a lot stronger. Like you're weak to Shield Slam this way, but I think you're okay with that. I think you'd actually almost prefer to see Shield Slams and executes right now, so that way your Sylvanas is going to have cool turns.
Yeah, fair enough. Unfortunately, there is another execute on the board right now. And Nyria is just going to make that attack just to kill off that slime within the duration of 2 turns. I think that's fair.
I'd be pretty surprised if unless StrifeCro draws something that's going to really influence his drops. I'd be surprised if he didn't play Sylvanas this turn.
What do you think about using Hero Power and Quartermaster? Do you really want to get the full value out of your Quartermasters in this matchup?
Well, I think it's something that he's going to think about, but he may not have time to actually wait that long. So Quartermaster is definitely a draw, I think, that can influence what's going on. And if there's one thing I know about StrifeCro, it's that he likes to get the most out of his mana. So even if a play is a little bit less powerful than something else would be, he's going to keep an eye on being mana efficient. So if he makes a token here and plays Quartermaster, he's able to play Sylvanas and make a token next turn as well. So I think that all those things are going to really factor into his decision. And the other thing to note as well is that if he's, like, say for whatever reason he's familiar with how Nyria's warrior deck is going to be built, if he waits for Muster for Battle and Quartermaster, it's going to set up big brawl turns for Nyria.
Now, a pretty good draw for Nyria right now. Fire War Axe. Unfortunately, he isn't going to be able to fill out the rest of his curve, but I think Warrior is okay with that, playing it slow and steady. Would win the race.
Yeah, Warrior deck is it's one of the few decks I think that's just okay with floating mana because it has such powerful endgame threats. So it's sort of like the longer the game goes, the more it's going to get. And I think that something like Fiery War Axe is exactly what StrifeCro was looking for from Nyria, just because he wants to get Harrison Jones out of his hand. He wants to get a little bit of extra gas, and he wants to get a body on the board. This 5/4 can't just be ignored. It has to be dealt with some way, and Deathbite is certainly the card to do that. Wow, what a pickup right now.
Yeah, even though StrifeCro was pretty happy about getting a Fiery War Axe and actually able to play a Harrison Jones onto the field, drawing more cards and refilling his hand, I think Nyria is going to be pretty happy about that as well, because he knows Harrison Jones is off the table. It's a card that's in almost every Paladin, so you have to expect it. But now Nyria knows this weapon is safe, and it's a stronger weapon that he can put onto the field anyway.
Yeah, this is looking really grim for StrifeCro. And Alex Strauss is available next turn. And then he even has Grommash Activator after that. Lay on Hands gets picked up, though.
Yeah, Lay on Hands is a pretty nice one. Not only does it refill your hand eventually, but it also refills your health up after the Alexstrasza inevitably comes down.
This is actually like this just turned into a game, I think, with that Lay on Hands draw. Like, it was looking like Nyria just had such a stranglehold on what was happening, but this game is looking a lot more even. And so actually, if StrifeCro is really thinking ahead here, unless Nyria has a second copy of Cruel Taskmaster or something like an Inner Rage, he's not going to be dead to Grommash. So Big Game Hunter might just be the play here. And then you wait on the Lay on Hands to use it next turn.
The problem with Big Game Hunter is that you're going to be, if you're playing Big Game Hunter, you're either going to be playing Sylvanas or pretty much almost nothing to combo with that. And you're gonna be floating so much mana. Again, StrifeCro is a player that doesn't like to float mana very often. And it's also, if you play Big Game Hunter, you're gonna be so weak to Brawl as well. So no matter what StrifeCro does, I think Nyria is gonna feel pretty good after this position.
Yeah, you know, when you put it that way, Lay on Hands first, I think is actually not that bad of a decision. He doesn't have much time to make one though. And this is a tough one. Wow, this turn did not feel like it lasted that long.
Oh, no. Yeah, see, I think StrifeCro is just... He might have even considering not Hero Powering this turn because both his Quartermasters have been used, and he doesn't want to be even more weak to Brawl.
Yeah, I think he's just going to go for it. I think he wants to just force everything he can. You know, it's a 6-1 for that Brawl to happen. And he's going to be really disappointed to see it. And this is a big turn now for Nyria. So much value being bought with this Brawl. Oh my gosh, and the 1/1 wins the Brawl.
Wow.
That's like one of the worst case scenarios.
And wow, Nyria actually, he uses his Death Spite. He doesn't attack with that Death Spite, and he actually sets up for another Death Spite. So that means, StrifeCro knows he has to go out for Lay on Hands here, because that just clearly telegraphs that his opponent does have the Grommash in hand.
You know, if Nyria didn't have Grommash, that actually would have been a really good turn to make the exact same play, to force something like Lay on Hands from your opponent if they had it, which would really kind of put them to the test in terms of how they want to develop and move forward. And I actually think, I like using the Despite here as well, just because they picked up the Whirlwind. Had he not picked up Whirlwind, I would have tended to favor saving the Despite to help fight against something like Sludge Belcher. But when he sees this, I think he's totally fine with it. So now This is a great Aldor Peacekeeper turn, but again, he's sitting at 5 health, so like, what does he do going forward?
Even though he's sitting at 5 health, he can be slightly more comfortable knowing that his opponent has used both Death Spite and a Fire War Axe, and Grom is already on the table. So then after that, you're pretty much looking at Ragnaros and his second Fire War Axe. And a lot of players had even been cutting Ragnaros from their warrior list, so not as bad of a position as you typically would see, I think.
Looks like it's going to be a quality Aldor Peacekeeper and muster for battle if he's doing this. But it could be True Silver Champion as well. But I think he's going to favor just getting stuff on the board. I think he just feels like he needs something out.
I also don't think the 1 health that you like, you're going to be healing for 2 if you use the True Silver Champion. But if you use the muster and kill off this Gromish, then you're only taking 1 damage, which puts you down to 4. And I don't think anything in the warrior deck really depends on whether you're at 4 or 5 HP.
Not in this warrior deck.
Yeah, you're basically looking at the Fire War Axe essentially, and that only does 3 damage. So you're pretty safe now at this point.
Shieldlock gets drawn, so I'm gonna guess this is a Whirlwind turn. Shieldman's going to follow it up. So still a healthy life total for him, but Strneir3 is actually, he's kind of climbed back into this. He's only at 4. He doesn't actually have a way to answer this Shield Maiden very efficiently either. He's going to have to drop to 1 if he wants to do it.
Yeah, there's actually...
Silver Champion.
Yeah, there's no way to kill off this Shield Maiden without using a True Silver, and that means just attacking it. And that leaves you vulnerable to a Fire War Axe top deck.
Which is only 1 of left. And something like Baron Geddon can also end the game, and of course Ragnaros can always end it from this life total.
All right,
he just doesn't have another choice.
I think he has to go for it. I mean, if he weren't at such a low health right now, he'd actually be in a really good position. He has card advantage, miraculously, after the double Acolyte draw from Nyria.
I'm really curious why he chooses to go the Pilot Shredder over the Sylvanas right now. I guess he just wants more stuff on the board. He feels like he just needs to deal with everything. Harrison Jones gets drawn for Nyria.
Well, that's a good one.
Yeah, that's okay right now.
Now, are we going to see War Axe? No, Ragnaros.
I gotta believe this is Big Game Hunter and Cruel Taskmaster's turn. I think he just wants to get pressure out.
Yeah, not only does it put pressure on the board, but I think it's really nice to clear off this 1/1 of the Paladins. You want to clear off as many minions as possible in order to set up for that Ragnaros the following turn.
Now, I think what Nyria is thinking about, though, is Consecrate. So we may not see this big Game Hunter come down, sort of like as a hedge his bets against that. But you can see it's paining him to not play that big Game Hunter. He really wants to get it out, but Strneir3 does not have Consecrate.
I think Nyria is just still pained by the fact that he used his Death Spite, or he used the second. Oh my God, that's huge too.
That's actually a really important minion right now because that takes away Fiery War Axe for a turn.
Yeah, I think Nyria is just hurting himself based on the fact that he uses his second charge of his Death Spite as basically he used it to set up for his Grom. But if he had actually attacked with the second charge of his first Death Spite, he would have lethal right now. Or the game would already be over.
Wow, he's just going to go for Ragnaros, and this is a 25% chance to end the game right now. This is an important hit.
Oh, come on, Senor Del Fuego. No!
It's the 1/1. Strneir3 able to do what he can to try to get back into this, but I think he's just going to have to try to fade Ragnaros shots for basically the rest of the game.
You know, actually, Strneir3, in his decks, he only plays 1 equality. In his typical Paladin decks that you see him on ladder with, only 1 equality is used. So after that 1 equality, and I believe Big Game Hunter was used as well on the Alexstrasza, what else does Strneir3 have in his deck to deal with the Ragnaros? Nothing, right?
He's got Sylvanas and Hope. That's what he's got right now. And I think this Iron Regal is going to be hitting the board potentially just to get extra minions out. Oh, it's so painful. Do you attack with this True Silver Champion as well? I mean, now's as good a time as ever. Again, Baron Geddon is a card you're going to die to. Yeah, but I think that's what he's considering when he chooses to use the True Silver Champion.
Yeah, if Baron Geddon is drawn because of the sequencing, because of how the cards were played out, Ragnaros will actually go off before Baron Geddon. So, it's not very good.
This is turning into a a really crazy situation
Mm-hmm.
where it looked like Nyria just had the game locked, and strifecrow managed to stabilize at 1 health. And he's still got to fight through this Ragnaros, though. So one of these shots is really bad for Ragnaros, and I'm guessing that everyone who plays Hearthstone can pick it right now.
Oh my god.
Sponus. And it takes the Sludge Belcher, so I think it's a sigh of relief for Nyria that it didn't pick up. Oh my gosh, and Coghammer gets drawn.
Coghammer is pretty huge. Not only does it add more damage to the board, but it also gives one of the creatures a Divine Shield. So that's just more stuff for this Ragnaros to hit in the following turns.
I think this Ragnaros is falling this turn. That's what I think. I don't think there's a chance it's living.
Strifecrow is looking for the combination of cards that will allow for the Ragnaros to die.
First one. There's the second one. Wants to get Divine Shield on one of these two. So that's going to be... Needs 1 point of damage here, so he's going to go for a ping. Doesn't get it, so it's going to be Consecrate used instead.
Oh, man. If Consecrate does go down, then I think another draw from another big bomb from Nyria could turn the game back around, like something like Dr. Boom or even Baron Geddon.
Yeah, Dr. Boom, I think, is definitely the minion that he doesn't want. That Strifecrow doesn't want to see right now. This Boom Boss.
Oh.
Geddon is one of them, though. And this is a lot of pressure now back on Strifecrow.
Yeah, again, Strifecrow will have to deal with this Baron Geddon somehow, and I don't see any ways for him to do it with the current hand.
Strifecrow just laughs at what's going on. Consecration! That is actually one of the ways that he has to deal with Baron Geddon.
Mm-hmm. He's considering just silencing the Baron Geddon, but I don't think that's the play. Oh man, this is again such a very tense game. Fire War Axe would win the game over the course of 2 turns.
2 more points to the face. Nyria's done a 15. He's still got Sylvanas in his hand, and Shield Maiden gets drawn. I got to think he's playing 2 minions this turn. He's going to continue to hold on to Game Hunter.
Oh man, Dr. Boom is drawn
for Strifecrow.
I think if he actually played Big Game Hunter the previous turn, he would have won. Or yes, Nyria would have won. There's just no way for Strifecrow to deal with both Big Game Hunter and Sylvanas this turn.
Yeah, you're right. There's actually no way he could have dealt with it. Instead, though, you know, he needs that weapon. The weapon will end the game right here. But I think that's about, you know, a way to activate his execute too. Like if you do something like Whirlwind, they could potentially end the game too. Iron.
Oh, that's an owl.
Was gonna finish this off. Nyria. I didn't realize he had Ironbeak Owl on this list, but so something like Whirlwind, even like Inner Rage. There's a lot of stuff he could have drawn, I think, to activate his execute moving forward. He had a Shield Sand still left. I mean, it's still a few outs left for Nyria, but